record on clock.
Okay, good.
Cool. So do we have everyone we need, or do we wait for someone, Doris?
Brenda's, but that's okay, you know, if everybody should be on time, you know, then since you are recording it and she can make up the
Right. Okay. I don't know exact format what is used, but what I was thinking is that in the first 5 to 10 minutes, I will explain some of the key points of general evaluation and evaluator. And then we can open it to question and answer. You may have questions. Is that okay?
Yes.
Okay, good. Okay, so let's get started. First of all, let's go. Oh, Brenda is coming. Good.
Okay. I admit her. Yeah.
There she is.
Wonderful. You
Good.
got a good crowd. You see how popular you are, Ramesh.
Oh, I didn't realize that this 5 people are crowd.
Well, yeah, before we only have two
Oh,
people available
okay.
because we're talking about just the new people. Yeah.
Yeah. Hi, Brenda. Can you hear us? Oh,
Brenda, we don't see you yet.
She's still connecting to audio.
Right. There she is. Hi, Brenda.
Hello, everyone.
Good. I'm glad you joined. Ramesh here. Okay. Should we get started?
Yeah, go ahead.
So let's focus first on general evaluation role. First of all, there are 2 types of roles, as we call all the club roles. There are 2 types of roles. One is a major role, other is a minor role. Major role are roles like Toastmaster, General Evaluator, Table Topics Master, evaluators, speech evaluators, and speech providers, or speakers. So these are called major roles because there's a little bit more major in the impact and what is needed in terms of skills that is needed for. Other ones are called minor roles like timer, grammarian, or R counter, ballot counter, and so on. Right? The idea is that new members first should get into minor roles first. And once they're used to minor roles, they've done for a few weeks or months, then they start trying major roles. So that's how they graduate. And that's what Toastmaster suggests. But we are trying to accelerate your journey into major roles. General evaluation is a major role. And I would say general evaluation is one of the easiest major role. That I feel, okay, Doris is saying no, maybe Doris feels that way, but I feel why I say easiest is that it does not require advanced preparation. Okay, in my opinion, we can do, I'll give you some tips about, you should be able to take this role up without much of advanced preparation needed for a specific meeting. For example, to a table topic master has to prepare some table topic questions in advance, right? So that's the speakers. They have to prepare speeches in advance. Toastmaster of the meeting has to prepare theme of the meeting in advance and have to worry about who are all the role holders. And let's say evaluators have to do the real evaluation they have to listen very carefully. Compared to all of this, is a little more plain in the role, in the sense you should be able to take it up with a shorter notice. You don't require a whole lot of advanced preparation. Why? Because what GE really is doing is observing how the meeting is being conducted and provides the report at the end of the meeting. Right? For example, did the meeting start on time? Start noting down how the meeting is going, as per the expectation, as per the rules and regulations that we have set out. And is there anything to point out in terms of improvement? And even if things are going smoothly, then appreciate that things gone smoothly. Right from the time when meeting is opened by Sergeant at Arms. Did the meeting start on time? Did Sergeant at Arms welcome everyone? And did it talk about turning off the devices or distractions? That's when you start. Right? Then, how did the Toastmaster introduce the theme? How comfortable was Toastmaster? How was there any technical issues? Did we find any glitch, or did we waste 5 minutes looking for camera or sound system or something? Those are all part of how meeting is conducted. So those things GE should try to make a note of. And how did table topic master conduct table topics? Was it, if it is creative, appreciate that it was very well done, creative ways. If it was, there was some room for improvement, point out what is the room for improvement. And evaluation section, one thing that GE should focus on is how did evaluators did. One of the problem that I have seen that GEs make is to start evaluating speeches in their review. They say speech was great, and this speech could have been better here, or this speech really I liked because of this reason. You're not supposed to talk about how speeches went. That is the purview of the evaluators. Evaluators are evaluating speeches. General evaluator is evaluating overall meeting and including the evaluators. So you should make a comment about how did the evaluations go. Did the evaluators provide good input to speakers? Did the evaluators provide constructive feedback to the speakers? Were they, right in the tone? Were they too aggressive and all? And of course, you should also talk about all the evaluations. Wordmaster role, how did they do? Our counter, how well they perform. So that is what you have to summarize at the end in 2 to 3 minutes. And of course, that's the challenge. How do you summarize all of these findings in 2 to 3 minutes? But observing, it is all about observing and writing down how things have gone well and where things could have been improved right from the get-go. Sergeant at Arms, Toastmaster, table topic master, evaluators, and all the functionary groups. Not the speech. Never evaluate the speech or talk anything about speech in general evaluation section. Okay? Does that give you a good idea about what a general evaluator is? It's all about noting. The challenge comes in summarizing in 2 to 3 minutes. What do you summarize? Right? So that is where you need to pick the right stuff. You cannot talk too much. More than 3 minutes, you shouldn't really spend. I have a challenge myself. I go over 3 minutes at times doing the general evaluation because there's so much to talk. It's the Sergeant at Arms and general topics and the evaluators and all that. So we have got a lot of things to talk, but all of that basically you have to summarize at the end. So that's the main function. So that is why I said the GE role is easier than others, is because you don't require advanced preparation. It requires a lot of listening skills, observation skills during the meeting. That's all. You don't require advanced preparation. You can do all of that during the meeting, all the attention that you need. Okay, so that's my take. Now, some people may feel that general evaluation is very hard, but I feel like that's the, everything else requires a lot of preparation in advance. But geez, you can just jump in. So that is my general advice on GE. And so let's open it to question and answer. Any question or anything you might want to ask about GE, then I'll go to evaluations.
Ramesh, no, nothing as specific questions, but is there anything like a simple checklist, like whatever you mentioned, everything? I know it's like how the meeting runs. Basing on that, you dynamically you point out these points, good points and negative, like what went wrong. But was there any checklist from the Toastmaster, like these things should be talked about, and is there anything such, or is like from your experience you have driven?
So there is a checklist published by
Okay.
Toastmasters International. And
Okay.
in the website, I have seen the checklist. The
Okay.
reason I did not talk about it, the checklist looks very intimidating.
Okay. Okay.
It has so many questions. You have to observe this, observe this, observe. If you read that, you might feel discouraged. You will say, "What?
Okay.
This is what I have to do." So
Okay.
what I did was I created a short checklist.
Great. Yeah.
Cheat sheet. Cheat
Yes.
sheet. That will be easier. And either I can send it after the meeting, or I can paste it in chat window. What would you like to do?
Even here in the chat is fine. Quickly, everybody can copy that in case.
I think I have covered most of the things that you should observe in this chat window, because I did go through the Toastmasters checklist and I say, whoa, if you talk about that, when it's got too many things to worry about. So here is a small list that you should just keep in mind. I think that's good enough. If you keep this in mind, you'll perform very well.
Understand.
Okay, so I hope this short list and it doesn't discourage you. The starting time, was the meeting conducted well? Was there any technical issue? How did president do the remark? How did Toastmaster open the meeting? How did the role players, like functionary roles, how did they do? And evaluators, how did? That's it. These are the minimum things you need.
Yeah. This. Yeah. That certainly helps. Yeah.
And even if you don't do anything, you must talk about role players and evaluators. That's the last two things are the most important. I would say evaluators are the most important. You must talk about how evaluations went.
Okay.
That is, I think, the most important aspect of GE. Other than normal meeting, how it was conducted, you must make some comment about how evaluators did. Because evaluators also need feedback. And who is providing feedback to evaluators? Nobody. They are providing feedback to speakers, but who is providing feedback to evaluators? General evaluator. That is the role that is supposed to provide feedback to evaluators. So evaluators become better next time. Okay. So I always make it a point to talk about how evaluations went, what evaluators could have done better. If you don't even know, if you don't have anything about how to do better, at least appreciate this evaluation was great. They started with this, they gave very pointed feedback. That's a great feedback for evaluators as well, to keep the motivation going. Yeah.
Yeah, I have one question. So while giving feedback to the evaluators, you can add your point that more specific for the speaker also, right?
Yeah, I mean, if they missed obvious points, they missed obvious points or something. Yes, yeah, that's a feedback to evaluator. That's not, so, if I were you, I would add something. Yeah, you could do that.
Correct. In that sense, it will be a feedback for the speaker indirectly, and so that evaluator can add those points also in next evaluation. Okay.
Sure, you can do that.
Yeah, the evaluator evaluate the speech, but the general evaluator evaluate the performance of all the functionaries and the meetings. And notice that the general evaluator is the only one that's not evaluated by anybody. That's why it's the last function that they will perform. They're supposed to know everything that's supposed to be proper. So that's why it's very you have to be selective in what to say. You want to keep a positive tone and encouraging as well. Like the first timer who did the great job, you mentioned that people stepping in to fill the last minute role. Yeah.
Okay. So if there are no more questions, we can go to evaluations, right? So I think I gave already a talk about evaluation at the Toastmasters, and it was like a workshop kind of thing I did. But in summary, in 5 to 10 minutes, this is what I can say. It's all about listening skills, okay, and analyzing the observations and putting it in a succinct form that you can talk in 2 to 3 minutes in a very interesting way. So that is what evaluation is about. Key thing is that you should know the project objectives. One of the things that I find very a little bit problematic is that evaluators don't know what is the speech about. The project is not clear. And right in the meeting, they're saying, okay, which project was yours and where is the evaluation form for that project? And they're searching for us. So that's not right way to do evaluation. Evaluators must be assigned in advance, and evaluators should know which project this is being delivered for, that speech is being delivered for. Why that is important is because you need to know project objectives. And you must always evaluate against the project objective. It is not, I've seen a lot of evaluators, they evaluate just as a general speech. Hey, there was a great voice variation used, there was a nice body language, used the stage very well, looked at the eyes. Those are something you have to observe. But the first thing that evaluator must evaluate is, did the project, the speech meet the project objective? That is the biggest care about of an evaluator. So you can only do that if you know what the project objective is. Right? And once you know what the project objective is, then it becomes a little bit much more clearer in terms of what you should be really observing and how should you be presenting in the evaluation, because that's what should be the theme. Right? So for example, if the project objective is about humor, make a humorous speech, then you must evaluate against how the humor was created. Was there how many laughs were there? Did it come naturally? Was it really, did it succeed in its objective? Other thing could be like if it is about the storytelling, how were the stories, and how did you like the structure of the stories? How were the stories entertaining? Were the stories engaging? Did the story really make the message that the speaker was trying to? So keep the focus more on stories. So that's the objective. So that is the first thing I would say. Project objectives are the key care about. Then, of course, there are a few common objectives, like did it impact the audience? Was the topic relevant to the audience? Body language, voice variation, vivid descriptions. Look for nice vivid, how vivid was the description? Did it use nice, could we envision what speaker was trying to say? Right? Those things make high impact. How much personal stories these people use. A lot of speeches are about personal stories, right? Storytelling. Many times we take a topic, we do a lot of research on the topic, and we present it as a fact. But my feedback a lot of times is about, we want to know how you yourself personally were impacted by this, or do you have any personal stories to talk about it? That is the most impactful thing, right? So if you're talking about, for example, a topic is about, say, job search or something, or career transition, that's a topic. And now you can always do a lot of research on how career transition should be done. These are the three key points, and you present a fact, very nice. But it would be great to say, that I was also in a bad situation at one time. I was really desperate for a job. And then this is what happened. This friend told me this. I went to the site, and that really relates to you. You told your story, you opened yourself up, you made yourself vulnerable, and you shared something that connected with the topic of the speech. That really helps a lot in terms of impacting the audience. So I look for those kind of impact. So project objectives and few common objectives, like impact on the audience, body language, voice variations, etc. So this is what you should evaluate against. Now, how do you go about it? As the speech is being delivered, you hear the words and you observe everything, and you keep writing down, right, in your notepad or wherever you feel comfortable with. What are the good things you're observing? What are something that can do? Doesn't matter what order and all that, keep it as random, because speech is coming at a very fast rate. You have to really jot down pretty quickly, right? So you can't worry about the order at that. Write down, this is what I like, this is what could be improved, this is what I like, and the 3-4 things you liked, and then you like, meaning things like what I said, right? Vivid descriptions, impact on audience, voice variation, body language, eye contact. What did you see? All of that, project objectives, all of that. How did you see? Keep writing down. Once you have written down maybe a list of things, say there are 15 items in thing you wrote. Now you have to, next task is to bubble down that 15 items into a 2 to 3 minutes logical, coherent presentation, right? Speech that you have to deliver. So one thing is that as soon as the speech is done, since then you have time until the general evaluator starts his section, his or her section, right? That is the time you have to really whittle down, analyze, merge, synthesize, come up with the 2 to 3 minutes. So most often as an evaluator, I don't participate in table topics. And I don't give too much, unfortunately, can't give too much attention to table topics because that's the time I'm fully focused on synthesizing the information in coming up with 2 to 3 minutes. And how do you synthesize? Once you have got those 15 points, you now start merging. You put the similar items together so that they can be spoken in one sentence or two. So you saw some good voice variation here, voice variation there, good variation here. So voice variation is something you must mention in your speech because you saw 3 points, right? Then you say, use excellent use of voice variation. Like when you said, dad, that's an example. So you have to give example. That's another thing. Always note down those things with examples. Just write something about example, good voice variation. When he said dad, that was a great voice variation. And say body language, when he talked about his college, his body language was great, something like that. So now that you've got all of these things, merge the like points and positive points you put together. Say now you merge them into 3 good positive points. Then merge all the things that need to be improved in say 3 things that can be improved. So now you have got 3 main points to positive talk about, 3 main points, areas of improvement with examples. If you have that, now you construct your 2 to 3 minutes. And you construct your 2 to 3 minutes with a sandwich model. I think Doris has talked about a lot in that. Sandwich model is basically you start with very positive note. In the middle, you put in your areas of improvement, and then you end with a very positive note. That's sandwich. So you always start with, this is one of the best speeches I've heard from you, or something like that. It was excellent speech. What a great topic you chose. What a creative way of delivering this kind of thing. I could never have thought about it. That's a great way to begin speech review, because speech evaluation, because now you've really set the stage as a very positive tone. There are 3 specific. So I first start with one positive statement. There are 3 things I specifically liked about the speech. 1, voice variation. There are several instances of a great use of voice variation. For example, when you said dad. So that's an example. Like that, you would have prepared, like merge the points, right? To the merge positive things. The second thing I like is whatever, third thing. And then you say, okay, but there are 3 things you could do to improve, and you can go ahead with that. At the end, you summarize. You have to summarize that overall, the speech was great. It met the project objective. Somewhere you should add that it met the project objectives fully, because that's the whole purpose of the evaluation, as I said, project objective. It met the project objective because you talked about this topic. I really like these things. If only you could take care of these 2 things, this speech would do wonders. That's the way to end. So I hope that gives an idea of the sequence in which you have to do things. Yes, it requires a lot of listening skills, because when the speech is being delivered, you're not just listening to words, you're also listening to feelings, listening to expression, looking at the expressions. How do you do all of that while writing that 15 points that I talked about? That's the biggest challenge. And it takes some time to get used to it or gather that skill. And that is why actually evaluation is not right away. You can't start, but you have to slowly build on that role skill, and you will be able to do that. Okay. One tip would be for new members, it would be better to evaluate the first speech rather than third speech, because you get more time after the first speech before the general evaluation begins. Okay, it's a general tip. Okay. And yeah, so that's it. Any questions?
In the improvement area, so just like you said, voice variation, body language. So those could be the improvement area, but what else you can focus?
It could be even title. How did you like the title of the speech?
Okay.
Somebody says a title is career transition.
Mm-hmm.
Career transition is such a
Generic.
Plain heading is not really attention grabbing. What if you say the time I went down under, or the time I struggled the most in life, something like that, something to grab attention, and you tie that to career transition.
Mm-hmm. Test yourself, something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. So the area of improvement could be a lot. You can observe a lot of things. Speech title, how speech was opened,
Mm-hmm.
how speech was closed, how did the transition happen? Did you
between the
understand that one point going to the next point, going to the next point?
Mm-hmm.
Or was there a meandering? In fact, I just 2 weeks ago, I did some evaluation where there was a meandering going on. So you point that out. Say, hey, you went first and then you start talking about that and you came back to the second and that kind of.
Okay, the sequence of flow.
Sequence, flow.
Time with respect to the time.
Yes, that is very important. I talked about audience engagement. Did you see that audience was interested during the thing, or was it like audience was a little bit disengaged, disinterested in the speech? I know it is hard to observe when in the virtual situation, but you keep it in the gallery view and look at the audience, how they are doing as well, to see how they're receiving, right? And how much research was done. If the topic requires research, did you find a sign of research? For example, sometimes the speech objective is research and present.
Yeah.
So people say, hey, on cancer, 70% of this thing happened, 20% this happened. A lot of research was done.
Yeah. Siddharth gave about EV.
Right,
yeah.
Right. And you can appreciate if the research was done well, then you say positive thing. One thing I saw is that what a great amount of research that was done for this speech. At the same time, if the topic was, the objective was about research and you didn't see a whole lot of research, it was more emotional stories, then you say, hey, where was the research? So there are plenty to talk about as an evaluator. It's like open field.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Ramesh,
Go ahead.
you talk about, you can relate it to what you were going through, but sometimes I heard that the evaluator, shifted, talk about his own experience too long, so it doesn't become an evaluator of the speech. Rather than he took over to tell people about his own opinion, own experience. I think
very good.
That's the danger.
That is completely to be avoided. You don't start putting your opinion about the topic or anything like that for a long time. In fact, another thing I found, please beware. Don't evaluate the content of the speech. Evaluate the way it was delivered. You're evaluating the speech delivery. So what I see is that many of the evaluators, they spend a lot of time about Then I heard that you went to school, and in the school you met your uncle, and this is what you learned. Then you went to job, and this is what happened. Now they're summarizing the content of the speech. That is a big no-no, because then after all, you only have 2 to 3 minutes. So now if you spend 1 minute in actually reiterating the content or summarizing the content, then you missed something out. You didn't really give the right evaluations to the speaker, right? You didn't talk about how it was delivered. So refrain from repeating content of the speech in any form. That is one thing I have seen people do, make mistake like this, some of the new evaluators. So please be aware of that. And of
Bridget,
course,
you were
yes,
supposed to say something. Yeah.
Yeah, I just had a quick question, which was given the speakers, like which pathway they're on and what kind of speech they're given, does the rubric differ, or are there different rubrics different depending on what kind of speech they're giving, or is sort of, do we sort of evaluate on the similar criteria regardless of what speech they're giving?
yeah, speech objectives will change.
Mhm.
And just focus on speech objective and the common objectives I talked about.
Okay.
That's it. Doesn't matter which level.
Okay, got it. Makes sense. So as long as they meet their objective, or focus on whether they meet their objective, and then additionally also look at some of the other general things for every speech. Okay.
Yeah, right. That's
Ramesh, I know that there are two schools of people saying it should be third person, or another one is the second person. Which one do you prefer? Because actually we should be talking to the entire audience. So instead of just talking to the speaker and you did this, I heard you said, then we should be saying, oh, I heard the speaker do that using third person that include in the audience, rather than talking directly to the speaker. So which school do you think is better?
I think I find speaking to the speaker, the second person is natural to me. That comes naturally to me, and I make it a focus on the speaker rather than third person. But I see the point as to why would it help in terms of being third person. But I think you lose the connection with the speaker if you make it third person, right? So,
But you're actually talking to the audience. So you should not be just talking to the speaker directly.
mhm.
So, but I heard, there's experts, people say some people prefer second person, some people prefer third person. But I think actually, just like table topics, if we would take the person to answer, that the other people don't have to listen. Right?
Yeah, I agree with you. Yeah, it's a good question, and I don't have the answer. And I prefer the second person.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I do it that way. I think I need to learn how to do the third person and still do a good job. So yeah, good question. I don't know.
And I heard that from YouTube, one of the winner for the evaluation contest, he mentioned that we should go deeper into the evaluation, like give specific example of what, don't just say, oh, I heard that it is an excellent speech, you have excellent gestures, you have excellent, just talking on the surface, everything is excellent, but you have to point out what is excellent,
Yes.
so don't just say, oh, you have good gestures, or
Yes.
you use vocal variety, but
Yes.
give specific examples.
Yes.
Why it was good, why it was need improvement.
Yeah, so this is something I mentioned already, right? I said write down with examples. So that
Right.
you say voice variation, this was where I saw. But in the same stroke, you should also point out where the voice variation or body language could have been used, but wasn't used.
Mm.
That is going to add quality to your evaluation. To say, hey, you used voice variation in 2 places, but there was a great place you could have used when you talked about your mom. And you were talking to her in such an emotional manner. That's when the voice variation would have been great, but you were pretty flat at that time. Something. So that would also something add to quality of the evaluation.
Mhm. And also be considerate and be sensitive of using word. I remember my evaluator for my third speech, I follow the instruction, use rhetoric questions, start with a question. And then the evaluator said it was a poor introduction. So for 6 months, I dare not to speak again. So be very careful with new people. Don't use poor or you should do this, you should do that. Instead, I heard you said this, it may be better to say it the other way. I saw what you did, but the other way will be more powerful, something like that.
I'll give you an example, right? In the last meeting, Rovina used, I thought, a harsh language for evaluating you, Doris.
Yeah,
And
always, you never, don't.
Yeah, right. She used something like, Doris, you always hesitate somewhere, she said. You show hesitation. And I'm saying that is pretty harsh. That is not how I would, that's not leading by example. I think that is not how you should use, because you can say the same thing in a much more, friendlier tone, right?
Yeah, that's why, especially for new members, don't use those words. Yeah.
Yes. Mm-hmm. I don't use you words, use I words, right?
Yeah,
so instead of saying you were not good at this place, if I were you, I would be using this something. So that way it is not threatening, it is not alarming. It's like, if I were you, so it's like you put everything on I. So it's about me. It's not you anymore. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I can, similar cheat sheet I've got for evaluation, not too much in detail, as much as detail as I talked, but I have some things I can just put it in the chat window. But so I evaluate. So I put few of the points, may not have put all the points that I talked about, but at least you have something. Look at project objectives, look at few other common objectives, write down positive and negative in a rapid sequence, merge and sequence them, write the eval for 2 to 3 minute presentation, present with empathic tone and language. That's what Doris talked about just now. Empathetic tone and language. And use the time between speech and start of GE to prepare. Okay.
Thanks, Ramesh.
You're welcome.
That was an excellent session. I mean, from what I observed is when I did evaluation, I mean, it was so hard to, everything goes very faster. As you mentioned, I mean, you try to note the points, then you miss something. Okay. And finally it becomes like lot points. You have to compile it to a better way. All these things are like a dynamic things. And and then finally when giving the evaluation, you want to convey big, but you finally can miss something.
Yeah.
That is
So one tip there, Harinath, is that don't try to memorize the speech that is being delivered to you. You're not
Okay.
supposed to ever talk verbatim, or don't even have to verbatim produce any sentence, or you have to observe the key points and write the points in your evaluations. Not that is the thing. If you keep listening, like I have to really repeat the whole thing, or at least a quite major part of it exactly the way she spoke, then you won't have time to write the evaluations, yeah, to write the observations. So the way I listen in a way, I get the message. I know what it's trying to say. And that's it. I don't have to worry about every word being said, right? Otherwise, it becomes you are only busy with that.
Yeah. Okay.
For example, if somebody is talking about storytelling, say I went to my grandma's house, then we arrived at 11 o'clock, we opened the door, so much is going on. You don't have to know all the details. So what was it 11 o'clock or 10 o'clock? Why do you care? What you need to care is, did it make impact? Did you feel moved by that speech? If the that was the objective, right? That is what you have to be looking at. Don't worry about 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, train or a bus. Those things, yeah, I mean, they're details, but not necessary for good evaluations.
Okay. So in simple, a story should feel connected. I mean, yeah. Either you should feel you are part of it, or at least you are when you hear something, you should visualize what kind of experience happened at that time. Yeah.
As an audience, you should feel the impact.
Okay.
That's what I think. I think maybe that's a mistake a lot of people are making, in the sense they're trying to observe every nuances of the point, that now you lose the overall picture. You are so much worried about the trees that you forget about the forest. Overall, what speech was about, or how did it impact the audience? You're counting the trees in the
Yeah.
Yeah, I think Ramesh, one thing what I felt is, especially when you initially evaluate, like whatever you are noticing, right? We may not be noticing immediately those points, or we may not feel that it may be something to improve. So I think that is when you try to take some parts of the speech to basically meet the criteria of the evaluation, right?
that could be happening. That could be happening. Filler. You're using fillers. You're using the speech content as a filler.
Yeah.
But even if you don't find things to improve, at least you have enough point to appreciate.
Yeah.
It's okay to appreciate on good points that was covered in terms of language, body language, vivid description, engagement, title was great, opening was great, transition was great. By the time you say all of that, it will be easily 2 minutes. Right.
So the I think the only one point is then it will be more generic, right? So
Yeah.
so that is another catch there. So at least I'm saying from my personal experience, like when I try to evaluate, I mean, first of all, my first evaluation was with Shalini, and she's like already an expert. I feel like I'm nowhere there to evaluate her, and then on top of that, when I try to evaluate, I don't see anything to improve as such, right? So I can only takes points from the speech and then add it in the
I see your point, and it will come over with experience. You listen to others evaluating. Now you have seen Doris evaluate and I evaluate. Now you see what kind of points we are bringing out for improvements. So you also start incorporating those things. And say initially it will be 90% positive, 10% area of improvement. Then it will be 80-20. Then it will go 70-30. Then it will go 50-50. One day it will go 50-50. That's what you're shooting for.
Yeah,
so,
got it. Yeah.
Yes, well, it will come. So it's fine. But you have to keep trying. You have to keep trying. Otherwise, you will lose touch. If you say, oh, I don't know how to point the area of improvement, I don't want to volunteer for, then you will never get there, right?
Yeah, that was one of the reason I was trying to escape from the evaluator.
Escaping is not a solution, Harinath.
Yeah,
You have to
actually,
just take the bull by the horn, take the bull by the horn and say, okay.
Just watch YouTubes for those winners, you can learn something. And actually, in the pathway for the feedback and evaluation videos, one of them is very good. So watch the videos in that session.
Okay.
By the way, there are on YouTube also, I think this is that what Dennis was talking about. YouTube also, there are a lot of speech
Yeah.
evaluation recorded, and you can observe them and see how they are talking about positives and area of improvement and all. That may help as well. Okay.
Thanks, Ramesh.
Welcome.
Hey,
Welcome.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Kelly and Brenda, so what did you get from this session?
Thank you very much. This is very helpful for me. Hello, for evaluator and Jello evaluator is the most challenging functionary. Yeah, for me, it's also a big challenge. And yeah, today's webinar was very helpful for me. And I have a question about what is the sandwich evaluator? What that mean?
Sandwich is like, say, so sandwich is used for as a metaphor. It's like you have a bread and then a meat and a bread, right? So assume the meat is like area of improvement. A bread is like positive appreciation, good things about me, the speech. So you start with good thing first. Say, hey, this was one of the best thing I've heard. These are 3 things I loved about the speech. 1, 2, 3. Then you come to the area of improvement in the middle. You insert in the middle. That's like meat of the sandwich. And then you talk about, okay, what could have been 3 things that you can improve. Then you end with a positive note again. So that's the sandwich. You end with saying that overall, this was one of the great meeting. The 3 things I loved. If only you add 1 thing, this will be super speech.
Oh, got it. Thank you.
That was a great technique. I learned in Toastmaster when Ramesh given that in his presentation, and I apply that in my work regularly.
There you go. Yeah, right.
Believe it or not, after hearing that, I apply because I work with a lot of freshers with me, and then and they're under like pretty much under me or something like that. So it's like now I have to like I have to criticize at the same time I have to polish it. Then I was like mine was going in a tone where it was always going in a criticize angle. Then I felt after your speech only I realized that point. Then I was like doing like this like that fashion.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. In leadership skills that I coach, there are different personality styles, and one of the personality styles is called C, which is like analytical. Analytical people who deep dive kind of people, quality oriented, process oriented. They are always with details. That's the kind of guys. So how do you deal with such guys? First thing, appreciate them. They love appreciation about the expertise they have. So first thing you say, man, you've got so much expertise. Oh my God, how do you even gather such a knowledge? I could never do that in my life. Now that guy will think, oh, this guy's talking, man. Okay, come on over. What do you want? Tell me, I really like the way you speak and things like that. So, at least mentally feels very open and connected to you. Then you make your point, saying that, what if you change a little bit here or there, something? It'll be so you're doing good thing, Harinath. That's exactly.
I mean, I think I learned like a few techniques from you, and the good part is I'm applying that immediately. I'm not wasting it. I'm not delaying it. Just like the theoretical, I'm going practical of that.
Very good to hear. Glad to hear this. Indeed.
For me,
Okay, Abhijit, was it useful? Oh, Brenda, yeah, come on, Brenda, you haven't spoken.
I was just gonna say, no, thank you so much for sharing such a great information. And definitely for me, I think it's the two roles that are gonna be more challenging as of right now, because I'm like sort of new to this Toastmasters. So to evaluate someone with great feedback, it's just gonna take practice for me. And
Yeah, that's fine. As I said, even start with functionary roles, right? Minor roles. And minor roles also requires very much like listening skills, observation skills, but they are much more manageable chunk. And once you get used to those minor roles, then you can do evaluation and general evaluation.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, so super helpful. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Then we'll
Thank you all.
conclude this call.
Thank you,
Thank you
Doris.
so
Thank
much.
you,
Take
Ramesh.
care.
Yep.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Good
Ramesh,
night.
for giving such valuable informative workshop.
Sorry, actually, I wanted to be in other meetings as well, but 7 to 7:30 there was a huge conflict with my business offering. So course I'm conducting, so that's the problem.
But
Otherwise,
I'm
I would
glad
have
you
attended all.
participate, that's good. Yeah. So we can get all the new people together instead of just person-to-person coaching. So
Yeah.
at least they get a general idea. If then their own mentor can continue the personal
Yeah,
coaching.
this is expert expert mentorship.
Yes. I mean, Ramesh, you have that what you call now. I mean, as any situation, you give a right example, you throw a right example, so which makes well connected. So that line I like a lot, and I felt a very valuable in that approach. I mean, I want to hear such things from you. It's basically learning for my selfish think, maybe selfish. So I want to. I mean, when your speeches or somewhere, if anything like that. So I mean, even in every speech, one point I learned from you, that is itself is an achievement I am taking in that direction.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Great.
Thank you.
Okay. Take care.
Thank you.
Bye.
Good night.
Thank you. Good
Bye.
night.
Bye.
Oh, register for the conference.
Yeah.
Okay, good night.